Okay, so Kash Patel appears on the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know if I can watch all of it, but we're going to watch a little bit of it, and I'm going to have to pause and commentate on all of that, okay? I've only seen about half of this clip, and I believe nothing that Kash Patel says in this clip that I've seen. I believe none of it. So let's watch a little bit of it.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Let's just get to it because I know it's on people's minds. Epstein, right?
Okay, see, already how dismissive he is. Look how he says this. Let's just get to it because it's already on people's minds. Like, motherfucker, it was on your mind. Your entire career was built off of calling out the Epstein list. This was all you did. You went on big shows and talked about it all the time. Actually, I think I'm going to speed this up so that maybe it won't get hit. Let's do 1.5. So it may go a little fast, but at least I won't get hit with copyright.
The reason people are pissed off about that is the same thing, right? 20 years ago or whenever it was, 2006, 7, 8, Epstein gets a sweetheart plea deal, right? After committing the most horrific crimes on planet Earth, right? I wasn't in power there. I wasn't in place there. I had, nothing to do with it. But people were rightfully pissed. I mean, this guy was committing the most grotesque acts you can against children. And the media spins up about it. Many in the media protected him. Why? Because of his relationships, who he knew, who his bankers were, who his colleagues were, who was on the island and stuff like that. Some pretty powerful human beings. And so when you peel back the layer and then what happened? The Trump administration, the last go around decided, no, we're not going to let that go. We're going to investigate him, right? They charge him, they indict him.
Somebody said that's not what his career was built off of. His online persona. All he did was talked about the deep state and the Epstein files, and the FBI director has the power to release these Epstein files right now. Why is the FBI director not doing it? Well, you're literally the FBI director, and you've been that way for months, and nothing has been released. In fact, you've made a mockery of the situation, is what you've done. Yet you had no problem going on to podcasts and calling this out over and over again, and now here you are in this position, and you've done nothing.
And he's awaiting trial. And I've said it, Dan Bongino said it, we've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this, do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities, or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? But the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you?
Clearly we do, Kash. This is why we're questioning it, because we don't believe you. Yes, this is exactly what we're saying. Because you're defensive already. Why are you defensive? You are the FBI director. You are working in a country that Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and you are coming off as defensive on something that you claim you have all the answers for, but you're coming off as defensive because people are questioning you the same way you questioned the people that were there before you. And your behavior and your tone and the way you're going about this is my biggest problem. I have never been a big advocate one way or the other of whether Epstein did or didn't kill himself, although it does not seem believable that he would have killed himself. But I'm not saying I was one of the big advocates either way. I'm looking at this as a person that really wasn't invested in that one way or the other. And I'm looking at Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and I'm going, these guys are acting weird. Like, they're just acting weird. And it doesn't make sense to me.
I'm working my ass off, along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ, to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell. And you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
Okay, let's get into that. So what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails and a lot of time in segregated housing units, SHUs as we call them, right? And so, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And I know how you get in, how you get out.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard Kash Patel specifically say that Epstein didn't kill himself, but I've heard Kash Patel on many a podcast talk about they could release the Epstein list right now. Why is it not being released? Why is it not being released? And it's like, that's fine. You say your background gives you such an advantage on why you don't speculate on this, that, or the other. You say your background gives you all of these qualifications. My background, I've done this, I've done that, and I know this because I've worked here and I've done this. Well, before you became FBI director, you sat there as a person with all of this experience that you claim, you sat there on podcast and said, the FBI should release the Epstein files right now. Why are they holding on? Why are they holding it? Why are they keeping it? What are they hiding? And now you're in that same exact position and you're not releasing it. But you claimed that you had all of this insight before you became FBI director. So if you have all this insight and you know how the system works, why before you became director were you claiming that the people that are in power should be doing the very thing that you yourself is not doing? Make it make sense.
System. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up put the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, man, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run it up and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told, what I'd read, was that the guards were not paying attention or were sleeping.
Well,
right?
And in short order, you'll see it.
Not paying attention or sleeping. Jeffrey Epstein had connections to all of the most influential people in the world. And the guards, it sounds like a movie scene where something needs to happen in the movie plot in a prison. And so the guard is sitting there eating a donut, or he's playing a game on his phone, or he's taking a phone call from his side chick. That's what this shit sounds like, dude. It's crazy. It's like a convenient movie plot. Holy shit, what are we doing, man?
Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to surmise that from a video, right? Like, where they and look, do guards doze off on the night shift? Yeah. But no one can get in to the cell.
Dude, guards. Who the fuck? No. Kash. Guards that are guarding Jeffrey Epstein should not be dozing off. The part-time overnight hotel worker might doze off on his midnight shift, okay? The bank teller that's working the late shift on the weekend might doze off. I don't know. Not the fucking guard that's in charge of guarding Jeffrey Epstein. What?
And if they had gotten into the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
We're giving you all the footage we have.
So why wasn't that released like immediately? Why did this speculation escalate?
I think you'd have to ask whoever the attorney general back then was, Bill Barr.
Did you?
Why wouldn't you ask? Why don't you know that information? You are the FBI director. Why wouldn't you ask that information?
Ever see? Do you remember that HBO autopsy show? Dr. Michael Baden. He's a famous forensic scientist. So he's a pathologist, and he reviewed the case, and it was his determination that it was a homicide because of the way his neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation, and it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were, that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin, and there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who was just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report.
What? I got to back that up.
Weight, which had been higher on the chin, and there's a specific positioning. Neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation, and it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were, that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin, and there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who was just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report on that? No, I haven't looked at that.
Did you see any? Was there any other autopsy done other than the official one?
Not to my knowledge, but if there was, you'll get it. And that's what we're doing.
See if you can find that Dr. Michael Baden thing.
Yeah. No,
Did you remember that show, the HBO show?
No.
Pretty cool show. So this guy, Dr. Michael Baden, he had a long career of catching murderers, exhuming bodies, finding trace amounts of poisons, different kinds of things. And it was a crazy show, like all these wild ways.
Well, I love watching shows and I spend a lot of time on planes.
Yeah, it was an old show. It was a show.
This dude is talking to Joe Rogan. The dude that is telling you that Jeffrey Epstein certainly did not kill himself and that he has seen all of the evidence is sitting across from Joe Rogan, who has seen more than Kash Patel, apparently. And he has time to go to the Joe Rogan podcast and sit down and have a conversation with Joe, but he doesn't have time to release the Epstein lips.
Show like from the early 2000s, I believe. But this guy was like, this very well-respected forensic scientist who would analyze these bodies, and it was his determination that he was murdered.
Yeah. And my job, going back to the core of what I've been doing since I studied Russiagate was to get and is to get everybody the information.
When did you get here? Epstein's autopsy points to homicide. Pathologist hired by brother claims. New York City medical examiner strongly disputed the claim that the evidence from the autopsy suggested strangulation. So let's go to, by the way, this is the New York Times and they never lie. The private pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, said the morning TV show Fox and Friends, Mr. Epstein experienced a number of...
Dude, Joe is not a confrontational type of guy. From what I've seen, I don't watch or listen to Joe Rogan consistently, but I know Joe Rogan is not a combative type of guy. He's just a guy looking to have a conversation. I think Joe Rogan is very much aware that Kash Patel is lying right now. That's my gut feeling.
Injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck, that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. I think the evidence points to homicide rather than suicide, said Dr. Baden, who observed the autopsy done by city officials. Dr. Baden, a former New York City medical examiner and a Fox News contributor, said, I have not seen in 50 years where that occurred in suicidal hanging case. Findings by Dr. Baden were strongly disputed by the city's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who previously ruled that Mr. Epstein's death on August 10th in the Metropolitan Correctional Center was a suicide. I stand firmly behind our determination of the cause and manner of death in this case. Dr. Sampson said in the interview on Wednesday. She added, in general, fractures of the hyoid bone and cartilage can be seen in suicides and homicides. The hyoid bone is near the Adam's apple. Dr. Sampson also dismissed Dr. Baden's contention that the circumstances around Mr. Epstein's death suggested other people may have been involved. She said her office had done a complete investigation, taking into consideration information gathered by law enforcement in making the determination.
So this is a perfect example of going back to my public defender and prosecutor days. Mm-hmm. This is what we call a war of experts. You can always find someone to come in and say the opposite. Right. And I used to do it all the time. I mean, I represented some of the worst humans that you can possibly imagine on earth. Literally, the guys that were trafficking children from Mexico into America. And you could put up a professional expert to say, and this is what's going to go on forever. And my job is not the forever. My job is to get you absolutely everything that we can give you. And that's what we're going to do.
When did you become aware of this video that showed that no one had gone in and out of the cell?
Recently.
So why was it recent, though? I mean, if this death was, how long ago was this death?
Exactly. Why was this recent? How long has he been there now? Several months? And I'm not a body language expert, and I think everybody has their own kind of way of approaching a conversation. Some people like to look a person directly in the eyes. Some people don't like eye contact for various amount of reasons, but he does not seem confident in his answers at all. He doesn't seem confident in, and by the way, his answers aren't really answers. He's dancing a lot, but the things that he's replying with to Joe Rogan, he doesn't come off as authentic at all.
2 years?
Couple.
2019? Oh, really? What time flies? So 6 years.
Well, again, that's part of what I'm going to try to answer for you.
Jeffrey Epstein jail CCTV erased by technical errors. Whoopsies.
Guards happened to fall asleep, guys. The guards fell asleep. Oh, well, the CCTV erased by technical errors. Yeah, these things happen. These things happen all the time in the plot for a movie so that the plot can move along.
Yeah.
But you see how anybody on the outside, I mean, this is like a perfect storm for something. Can you pull that article up so we can read what it says, Jimmy? U.S. prosecutor said the jail mistakenly saved footage from the wrong cell. Sorry, Epstein, a convicted sex offender, first tried to kill himself in July last year and hanged himself in jail.
Hang on.
Yep.
Reread that line.
That he first tried to kill himself in July of last year. Yeah.
How much of the American public do you think knows that?
I didn't know that. I do right now.
There you go.
Maybe I heard it and forgot. Did you ever hear it, Jamie?
That's why he's on suicide watch, I think.
Oh, okay.
So a guy
hanged himself in jail in August while serving trial on federal sex trafficking charge. He pleaded not guilty to abusing dozens of girls, some as young as 14. Yeah. Soon after Epstein's death in August, two of the CCTV cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned and were being examined by the FBI. Found semi-conscious in his prison cell with injuries on his neck. On 25 of July, after this incident, he's placed on suicide watch.
I'm not saying every single camera in the place was working. I'm saying we've got footage and you're getting it. Mm-hmm. And then you can make up your own mind. And the theories can continue. But my job
So you became aware of this footage recently?
The ones that we're looking at, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but this is like an article from quite a while ago that was saying that the footage was mistakenly erased.
Look, I mean, it goes back to the same... Ask the people that were in power then. I mean, I get it that you want to hold me to account for their actions, and
no, I'm not saying,
not you.
I'm not saying that.
Not you. Just the public.
He is so defensive. He's so defensive on this topic. Back this up just a little bit and listen to how dismissive he is and how scared he is.
You became aware of this footage recently?
The ones that we're looking at, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but this is like an article from quite a while ago that was saying that the footage was mistakenly erased.
Look, I mean, it goes back to the same. Ask the people that were in power then. I mean, I get it that you want to hold me to account for their actions? And
No, I'm not saying,
not you,
I'm not saying that.
not you, just the public in general, and that's okay.
What's confusing to everybody today, first of all, it's very confusing because AI can kind of make anything, which has got to be a bizarre position for you to be in when you're looking at videos. I mean, I've watched Viking videos, look real as fuck, they just make Viking towns. I mean, it's really quite incredible what they're doing now, and it accelerates every month. I mean, I talked to Elon about it, and he said we're blown away literally every week. Every week there's some new breakthrough. We're like, wow, we didn't expect that.
Well, I can tell you after having looked at it, this ain't going to be AI.
You don't think so?
It's just not great. It's like if it were AI, like someone wanted to come in and make it, they'd make it better.
But why would you make it better when people could, you could have ambiguous footage that is, totally generated by AI?
Rogan he's not even trying to destroy him, and he's destroying him. Like for it to look the way that Kash Patel is claiming it's going to look is only going to benefit their story that this is what happened. Like Rogan's crushing him, and he's not trying. Like Joe Rogan is not. All Joe Rogan's doing is asking questions. All he's doing is having a conversation. That's all he's doing.
You don't think so?
It's just not great. It's like if it were AI, like someone wanted to come in and make it, they'd make it better.
But why would you make it better when people could, you could have ambiguous footage that is, totally generated by AI? I mean, AI can generate blurry images. AI can generate night vision. AI can generate essentially anything that's already existed, like really shitty 1984 VHS tapes. They can do that.
They can. But I'm telling you, I'm giving you the tape from the tape. There's just like I'm giving you the documents from the vault, just like I'm giving you information to Congress.
I don't know why Kash Patel decided to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. I really don't. This has not helped him at all, in my opinion. Now, there might be other good stuff on this episode, but I've only seen this clip right here. I don't know why in the hell he decided to go on here. I really don't.
Congress on COVID origins or what have you. What we find is what you're getting.
Okay, so now it's saying 2019, missing jail video from the first Jeffrey Epstein. So for the first attempt has been found. So maybe let's put it into perspective. Jails are not the most efficient, best run places. Yeah. It's not like
Fort Knox.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's yeah.
We're working with what we got.
Right.
So, and listen, this guy's not the only guy to kill himself in prison. It happens, I don't know how often.
Right.
All the time.
Even if he killed himself in prison. So if he was murdered in prison, crazy, right?
Yeah.
You could see why very powerful people wouldn't want to talk.
If he was murdered in segregated housing, in isolation, after being on suicide watch in a place in a detention center that I've physically been in myself, it would be fiction. It's just, in my experience, that is not doable.
It's not doable even for the most powerful and wealthiest people in the world?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think, though, that like if someone was in a position where a guy could release information that could potentially damage the most wealthy people on earth, you would have a concerted effort that's unprecedented.
Sure.
You'd have the resources that we could even possibly comprehend, all pointing towards eliminating this one person that it could be done.
But I mean, so many people have been implicated, right, already. And some of that information, what they did to Prince Andrew and everybody else is already out there. And so that's the conspiracy stuff that me and Bongino and the folks have to say, look, we will give you everything we can, and then we will have done our job. Also, if I had a shred, me, Kash Patel, had a shred of evidence, the Russiagate guy, the Jan 6 guy, the COVID origins guy, had a shred of evidence that this guy was murdered, I would be the first guy to bring this case hard and fast.
But you don't even have all of the information. Joe Rogan just asked you about stuff that was reported years ago that you had not even looked into, yet you're willing to make a definitive claim. It would be better if you said, we're still going through the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. There's a lot to this. And as soon as our investigation concludes, we're going to be willing to give you a definitive answer on this. That's not what you said. You said, we've seen the evidence and we've decided that he killed himself. That's what you said. Yet Joe Rogan is sitting there going, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Did you hear about this? And he's like, no, I didn't hear about that. Oh, I didn't hear about that. Oh, I didn't hear about that.
I would even doing press conferences every week on it.
Mm-hmm.
The first guy. That's what I'm asking people to play out to their logical conclusion. I'm not Comey. I'm not McCabe. I'm not the guy that was in the seat before. I have a wildly different background. I've been putting out the truth my entire career. Why would I risk all of it on this guy?
I believe you can't catch the letter.
That's what we're asking, Kash. These are the questions that we are asking. You are the guy that constantly said all of these things before getting in office, and you sounded like a different person.
Well, the Epstein Black Book, like on day one.
On day one, roll out the Black Book.
So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past. You need a 24/7 Declassification Office, whatever you want to call it, transparency, truth, whatever, I don't care, sits in the White House, reports directly to you, and you take incoming from the United States of America. I want JFK. I want the 9/11 files. I want this. I want that. All the FBI, and this is a tool, this is something we didn't cover. What the deep state uses the most to cover up their corruption is an illegal application of the classification system. Remember the Lovebirds text from, this is a beauty, the Lovebirds text from FBI, DOJ land, Russiagate, Strzok and Page were texting each other. Who they were running the Russiagate investigation against Trump. They were the head of the counterintelligence unit at the FBI, and they're having an extramarital affair together. Can't make this stuff up. They're sending each other texts about how much they hate Trump and are going to create an insurance policy to stop Trump. Then we finally find those text messages. You know what the FBI and DOJ do for like a year? Redact them to congressional investigators and congressional men and women running the oversight of their agency. That's just one example. But it gets even better. Here's the deep state full circle. Just last week, do you know what Strzok and Page received from the Department of Justice?
What?
A $1.5 million payout to settle a lawsuit that Strzok and Page brought for the improper disclosure of their personal text messages on FBI phones. And the DOJ just rewarded them. They broke the law. They broke the chain of command. They broke every regulation there is in the FBI. They weaponized the system of justice against a political target they hated. We found those text messages, and we got them declassified finally in full when I became Deputy Director of National Intelligence. And the world has now seen them, and they can read them. And that's the best form of transparency. That's why I want this 24/7 declassification office. Don't have me regurgitate it to you. Read it. Get the documents.
Somebody said he seems to know more then than he does now. Exactly. Like, listen to how he's talking. Listen to how assertive he is, how passionate he is. This is the guy that we wanted as the FBI director.
Get the files, get the memos. But the deep state came full circle and gave these guys a payday for rigging a presidential election and breaking the law. So now you know what happens. That's step one. Step two, get America the truth. And that's what that office would be for.
Yeah. You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word, or whoever that guy is, as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. We have an election coming up, and we need to adjudicate this matter at the polls. God knows the FBI and DOJ aren't going to do anything. But how are you going to reward the FBI with a new headquarters building after their illegal surveillance on Donald Trump continues with a reauthorization of FISA, and we can't even get basic documents out? This is why America hates Congress. And this is why I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
So are you, like, in closing here, I want to just be very clear. Republicans could get Epstein's list out now? Like, how would that process work?
Simple. One subpoena to the FBI. Give me the list. Oh, you don't want to give me the list and you're going to break the law and commit contempt of Congress? We're going to take your money. We're going to take Chris Wray's private jet. Taxpayer-funded G5 rides across the country to his Appalachian State vacation home down to Georgia and all over the rest of the place. That guy doesn't need a G5 government-funded jet. And the second you take that money, you get Epstein's list.
So I don't know, man. That's kind of where we're at with it. There are more clips of Kash Patel talking about it too. I just can't find them right now, because if you search Kash Patel Epstein, it's all about his Rogan appearance. So it's kind of convoluted right now. It's sad, but that's where we are with it.